Well, there we have it, guys. The Rugby Championship is officially over. The last game is over. Springboks, Argentina, 22 points to 21. Argentina getting a try right at the end, meaning it ends as a 1-point game. Now, if you missed this one, you might have thought, wow, this must have been a real tooth and nail battle, exchanging of points, getting right up to the end. It must have been an incredible game. No, it was one of the roughest games I think I've seen in a long, long time. So many stops. The referee probably didn't let play go on longer than about 2 minutes in the entire game. Handling errors from both teams, penalty counts through the roof. A lot of big issues for both teams to be thinking about going towards that World Cup. And I'm not really sure, even with the final score as it is, either team will be that happy with their performance in this one. But we'll have a run through. Of course, the game's just ended, so it's my full-time reaction to it. If you enjoyed this style of video, make sure to drop it a like. And to keep up to date with all the latest rugby videos on the channel, make sure to subscribe because it really helps out the smaller channels on YouTube who like to talk about rugby. So, starting out then, big controversy straight from the off. I saw Twitter explode immediately. Grant Williams getting knocked out instantly in this game. The kickoff happened, landed in his arms, cleared the kick straight away, trying to regain a bit of territory. When in came Malia, flying in, trying to get a charge down. Managed to technically get the charge down, but Hip carried on going, hit him in the head, and knocked him out cold. Now, I saw on the sideline when I was making my notes and stuff, Twitter absolutely explode. It's a red card, get him off, da-da-da-da. It's actually a bit of a tougher line to draw. I think he got incredibly lucky that he actually got his hands onto the ball to class it as a charge down. Because I think if you don't touch that ball, that is a red card. You are gone. That is the end of it. It's a bit of an issue in rugby when you hit these slight grey areas and what it can mean. But I really do feel like there should be a level of culpability held against you for making the charge down, and the welfare of the player you're going to be charging into should also come into it. I even though I feel like in the guidelines it actually might fall under a red card, I would have been happy for that to have gone to a yellow card. And maybe it had been reviewed by the TMO and that new bunker rule we've seen going on, rather than just be a straight red, because he technically did get his hands to the ball. It is a charge down, but you've got to have some further care going beyond the ball and actually making an impact on the player. The area that actually concerned me the most about that incident, Andrew Brace just, yeah, whatever, carry on, keep going. Let's have another phase of play. Like, what are you doing? Like, if somebody gets knocked out on the field so clearly, stop the game there and let's sort out, make sure people are okay. There were 2 people knocked out in this game, and Andrew Brace didn't stop the game for either of them until other people stopped playing the game. That is terrible officiating. I've said on the channel before, I really rate Andrew Brace extremely low in terms of the refereeing, in terms of World Rugby. I thought he had an absolute shocker today in terms of not letting the game flow generally, but also, welfare of players. You've got to stop that as soon as it carries on. And more surprising, after that, they let the game carry on for a bit, and Argentina got over for a penalty, and then a penalty got awarded the other way. So not only do South Africa lose a player through a massive injury, maybe leading towards the World Cup with maybe a big concussion or a head injury, you also get a penalty against you for the actions that happened after the fact. That, for me, I would have been happy to have seen that maybe be a yellow card and a scrum to whichever team had the ball. I actually don't know at the time who had the ball in possession of the incident, but I maybe would have liked to have seen it gone down that. But make sure you drop down in the comments your thoughts on that incident, because that's going to be some big controversy for this one. So moving on for the rest of the game, a really difficult game to sort of analyse and talk about. Very choppy, handling errors from both sides, both tier 1 nations, both ranked in that top 10 in the world. Handling issues today absolutely all over the place. Really struggling for either team to get a foothold in the game. Discipline for South Africa started out very poor, then got better, and then got worse by the end of the game. So most of the incidents that actually happened along the start, the opening 10 minutes, is really just a list of penalties going to Argentina, which Carreras made the most of, getting 2 penalties early on. I have just noticed I've made a slight mistake here. That should say the 39th minute, not the 9th minute. He only got 2 in the opening 10 minute, but it allowed Argentina to get 6-0 still on the board, and they did stay there for a little while until we got towards that 19th minute with Eben Etzebeth getting his try. It was the first real set of phase play we got to see from South Africa in the Argentina 22. South Africa have really struggled today just to put the phases together and keep things going without, dropping the ball or something going wrong or trying an offload that was going a little bit too far for them. It was the first sort of phase play we got to see deep in that 22 and actually worked really well. It came off of a really nice set play they tried today, throwing quickly into the front to Eben Etzebeth, carrying it up back inside to Malcolm Marx, smashing it all the way up. Argentina put on the back foot, and then a lovely pass out to Eben Etzebeth on the wing, not somewhere you tend to expect him, with some lovely little dancing feet to not get pushed into touch and managing to get over for his try. Libbok did miss that conversion, though. Kicking today for both teams, not necessarily the best. Carreras missed quite a few. We'll talk about that in a bit as well. Damien Dialende got his try about 7 minutes later. This came off the back of a big driving maul for South Africa. So we don't get to see a lot of is the way they utilised the maul, went for the line out, secured the maul, and then just chucked everybody in, adding all the backs, adding a bit of weight, getting those extra men and drive it over the line. It's something I would actually like to see a bit more in international rugby. More teams doing that. Get a 15-man line out on the go. Get yourselves in there on a big driving maul. Don't know how Damien Dialende ended up with it. I'm not sure Malcolm Marx would be enormously happy to have been driving that maul in. Damien Dialende stakes that try. But a nice try from him to be able to get over before his yellow card later on. Now, the set piece was an area of massive concern for Argentina today. Scrummaging looked very, very bad. I think South African scrummaging was also very good, so it sort of counterbalances that one a bit. The lineouts for Argentina, not great either. The line-out throwing wasn't very good. The choices of throws was also very strange. They didn't really lose throws, but they weren't the best throws. They had a couple of them going to the front man. South Africa just eventually learned exactly what they're doing, tackled the front man instantly and dropped him down. And then the driving mauls from Argentina, they had a number of opportunities in this game to potentially go for tries to make big meters upfield. But their driving maul setup from a line-out also pretty poor. So big concerns for them in terms of the set piece as we lead towards these World Cup warm-ups. And then just before halftime, we had our second knockout of the game. Lucas Paulos getting knocked out, getting his head technically on the right side of the tackle, going up against Dwayne Vermeulen, running at high speed. Not an easy man to tackle. Got his head against the hip and just took the hit. That one for me is much more, that's a rugby incident. That's a tackler trying to, tackle someone with the ball in hand. Got his head in a bit of an awkward position, hit a hip. That happens. That for me is a rugby incident. But again, Andrew Brace didn't blow his whistle until Faf de Klerk ran round and just said, I'm not playing, he's gone. And then he's like, oh, well, now we'll blow the whistle. Terrible performance from the officials. They need to sort that out, especially before the World Cup. All these new rules coming in about red cards for head injuries, and then you're just allowed to play on around these, really injured players. At least the commentator spotted the seagull getting attacked in the Scotland game. So South Africa went in at halftime in the lead, 15 points to 9, probably a bit closer than they would have wanted it to be, but a lot of their mistakes really letting them down today. Argentina just going through the boot of Carreras to keep them on the scoreboard, which is a tactic we got to see, across the last 2 years or so. There's been some big games where doing that with Boffelli kicking has absolutely been the way to go, and it's won them games, keeping them in that scoreline. It's a really good decision, but tactical decision making from Argentina, very odd today. The kicking from boot, not the best. There was a couple of big misses from Carreras that you really should be hitting, but the exchange later on into this second half where the board was quite close, you just want to keep points ticking over. They went for some kicks that were much more difficult than they could have been, missed those kicks, and then when they had maybe an easier opportunity for post, they were kicking to corner and then attempted to go for a line out and a driving maul in a set piece that just wasn't working. Some very odd choices. There's 1 point ends in this game, and over the course of the game, I think Carreras missed 3 kicks, and they also turned down 2 or 3 opportunities at posts that they should have slotted through. I mean, this game could have ended, 34 to 22 to Argentina had they just been nailing those kicks and putting pressure on South Africa through those penalties. Because this second half for South Africa, really so many issues in terms of the discipline. And just to rattle some of them off for you, 48 minutes, Argentina got a penalty through, getting a jackal. Penalty was missed on that one. They had one in the 58th minute. That was South Africa not rolling in the ruck. They decided to kick to corner for that one, decided to turn down those points, even though that one was very kickable for them. One in the 60th minute for Pieter-Steph du Toit taking a lifter in the air. That kick was missed. And then another penalty from basically the same position in the 67th minute, and they decided to kick that one to corner, and the driving maul completely failed because the South African defence in the driving maul was very, very good. So decision making for them, just management of the game, not the best, and having Boffelli out and not having a kicker that's quite as good as Boffelli, really punishing Argentina today. South Africa also with a couple of extra issues. I feel like I'm only talking about issues. Springboks went for a few box kicks today, and none of them were particularly brilliant, getting kicks over in the backfield. A lot of them going too far from Faf de Klerk, getting the marks called by Argentina, not really allowing to do everything. The ball just got kicked back down. A couple of kicks not chased very well by their team either. Really not the best we've seen from the box in this Rugby Championship in terms of their kicking duties. But we'll end on a bit of a higher note. Defensively, South Africa looking very good in this game in terms of defending their own 22. The scramble defence from them, they've certainly a couple of occasions where the defensive line was broken by some of the backs from Argentina just going on big strike runs. But the scramble defence from South Africa was very good actually to get back in time. Cheslin Colby made some immense tackles that absolutely had to happen in this game. And defence on their own try line and 5 metre line also very good. Eben Etzebeth putting in big stings. Stephen Kitsoff with some big turnovers as well, really helping them out in that department. In the 69th minute, try from Libok going completely against the grain. The whole second half felt so much like it was Argentina's for the taking. The ball, again, the handling issues for Argentina, not great. Trying to get these offloads, trying to get these passes, trying to shift it out wide. South African defence reading the plays very well and cutting off those passes before they came. Going for those offloads, pushing it too hard. Ball goes loose. Faf de Klerk picking it up, offloading to Libok, who ran a lovely little 50 metres for his try, but completely against the grain. And it's the only score in the second half for the South African team, and it could have been no score. There wasn't really a lot of other opportunities. It looked like they were going to be taking points away from Argentina with their ventures into their half. And it certainly wasn't helped when Damien Dialende got his yellow card. The referee called this one for a purposeful knock-on, which it was. The actual act was. I'm not entirely sure if Damien Dialende actually meant to. The ball was thrown back at him. He was running behind the Argentinian defender and he hit it backwards, probably forgetting that, yes, you are allowed to hit it backwards, but because he was running towards his own try and that is knocking it forwards, it definitely stopped an overlap man. So yellow card for that one. We've seen plenty of them. So yeah, I'm agreeing with that as a yellow card decision. And then Argentina doubling down right at the end of this game. Mateo Carreras making the most of that extra man, the ball spread out wide to him, getting over his try in the corner. And then Bertrano managing to finally finish off, some 5 metre defence from South Africa. Bertrano, the only one of this team to really be able to feel like he got through that defence and found that extra gap to get them over right at the end, and that one kicked by the other Carreras as well. Taking Argentina to 21 points. South Africa scrape by with this one on 22-21 to me. There'll be a lot of things they'll want to work on. There'll be a lot of key issues for this South Africa team, that discipline for one, handling issues for another, and the same is kind of reflected in Argentina. A lot of issues for them in terms of handling today. Balls going loose. The defensive, again, from their standpoint, very nice in terms of the breakdown situation. A lot of jackal penalties, a lot of rip ball back in terms of the rucking job. I thought they did really nice in terms of the breakdown. And utilising the backs, nice. Finding the space and allowing them to launch, very nice. But just sometimes forcing those passes, they can work if you maybe against, a tier 2 team. Maybe they'll be a real nightmare to deal with. But against the South Africa team whose defence is much more organised in a better line, throwing those offloads, really not necessary. They were doing well at the breakdown. Just got to go through the phases and try and work your way up the field a bit more. But there we have it, guys. South Africa taking this one in the Rugby Championship. I do, of course, have a video up about the All Blacks versus Wallabies game that happened this weekend as well. So you can go check that one out on the channel if you haven't already. I hope you've all enjoyed this one today, guys. Of course, we're going to be covering the World Cup warm-ups as well. That's going on over the next few weeks and then into the World Cup. So if you enjoy your rugby content on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to keep up to date with all the latest videos as they come out. I'll see you all next time, guys. Bye-bye.